Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes, and you're listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what's going on in my company just recently, things I am learning, and what I have done to, in the past, keep my company from growing, and what I'm doing to change that. Before we get into today's show, though, a big thank you to Gusto. If you haven't gone to their website already and their special link they have for us as listeners of the podcast, check out gusto.com/bootcamp. And that's going to be for a free 90-day trial of their software. Gusto, that's Gusto. They are a company that really facilitates the communication between the employee and the employer. And I feel like this is an area that I even have to get better at, becoming more and more transparent about pricing. And actually, as I'm talking today was December 1st, and in effort to make my, I'm actually looking at it right now, to make pricing and money and all the things in my company more transparent, the revenues, the financials, because today's December 1st, I sent out to the different organizations that I'm running what the breakdown of the revenues are, what our goals are for the next month as far as revenue, explain some of the areas of the P&L as far as where the profit centers were, different things that were extraneous during the month, big expenses, etc. So making sure that there's that transparency is super important when it comes to money, employees' paychecks, etc. And so Gusto really does help do that when it comes to payroll, making that direct deposit, having benefits, making it a great platform and really a great experience for them to be able to see where their money's going, whether it be taxes, unemployment insurance, all the different things that are taking out of their paycheck. So you definitely want to check it out. Go to gusto.com/bootcamp and try it out today. Now, today's a little bit differently. I don't have any notes. I do these episodes, one every 3 or 4 episodes. I don't have any notes. I'm just going to kind of talk from what I have been experiencing and hopefully something you're able to take away and utilize in your own business. And so the problem with the podcast is this. Is because I do not have a host and I do not have someone to challenge my ideas or to, like a co-host, someone else with me on the show or an interviewee even, because it's just usually me talking by myself, I usually don't have someone to challenge my ideas, tell me I'm wrong, or at least offer alternative perspectives at the issues that I'm talking about. And so because of that, a lot of times, people listening to the show, they kind of think that I might have all the answers or that I have the answers to every single problem in their business, and that's just not the case. I'm just not going to talk about things I do not know about on the podcast. So the reason I say that is because it can happen in your business too. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today is, the bottlenecks within, as I talk about the things on the podcast and I'm learning and trying to figure stuff out and then trying to give that information to you all as listeners, it's easy for you to think that I have it somehow put all together, that I can run any small business and it's all perfect. And I don't really believe there's any perfect organization because humans are inherently flawed individuals, and there's always going to be differences of opinion and we're all different and unique. There's always going to be issues when you ever have organizations come together of people, groups of individuals coming together around a common cause, around differing cause, like that are in debate against each other, whatever it is, there's always going to be tensions, there's always going to be disagreements, there's always going to be different opinions. And so, when you listen to the podcast and you hear me talking and answering people's questions, do know the fact that I am also running a small business, several of them, and that I'm going to have problems with people and I'm going to have internal issues and financial issues. There's always going to be stuff going on. And so I want to make it clear that just because I'm always talking about things I'm pretty confident about on the podcast does not necessarily mean that there's things that I'm not great at when it comes to business. And so one of those things is implementation versus kind of the creation of a company. And so because I'm more the entrepreneurial type DNA driven, I love starting things, I love building things, and I like breaking things when it comes to breaking business models, looking at ways of innovating different ideas, like if you listen to the last episode about innovation, copying other industries and trying to figure out how it works within my industry, and then making edits and revisions to the processes and procedures we have in place, and constantly trying to change things. I love change. Absolutely love change. I hate stagnation. And so I'm constantly trying to make my company evolve. I'm trying to put it out of business. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the next thing. And so that's all great and fine for growth of a company, innovating great ideas, creating new things, growth of a company. That's fantastic. What's not so fantastic is actual implementation. That is actually doing the things that are being created and following through. And then not just following through, but year after year, day after day, month after month, actually implementing those processes and procedures, becoming more efficient at them, and really beginning to create a business that is creating a solid profit margin, becoming more efficient, and instead of creating new and exciting things, just getting really good at one thing or really good at the thing that they're already doing currently. And so because I'm the type where I like to do new things, I like to build new things, I like to break existing patterns, I like to look at the way we're doing things and completely try to look at it from a completely different perspective and look at it from a completely different mindset, and then look at it from a different way of, like, a different industry. Like, what would a tech mogul think if they walked in my business? What would a successful entrepreneur that has sold $100 million business, if they come into my little business, what's the way they're thinking? And so because I'm that way, I will then walk into my business and I'll start changing things. I'll change the design of the estimate. I'll change the process that we use for estimating. I'll change the automations that we use for follow-up on estimates. I'll change the way that we do our digital media and social media. I will come in and change the way that we send video content to customers instead of phone calls or emails, and then changing that to voice notes via email instead of text. Like, all of those things. Coming into the business and changing the way that we're doing marketing from more of a content strategy. And, like, literally all those things I just mentioned, we have implemented in the past 4 to 5 months in my business. Like, we are always, every single week, changing and adapting and adding new things, and then breaking them down, and then figuring out what works, and then trying to negate what doesn't work, and figuring these things out. And we literally, in the past few months, we added a new division to the company and started doing handyman services. We have, let me think now, we're starting a conference. We're doing this book thing. All these different things. I've bought a gym in the past few months. And so all these things are putting more pressure. I'm getting to be able to scratch the itch of creation, change, all of those things. But this is the key. Not everyone in your organization, if you're the owner and you think that way, and everything I just said to you was super cool, and you literally just had 10 ideas of how you can implement some of that stuff in your business. If you're that way and you just really liked what I just said there's a really good chance you're probably making someone in your organization pretty mad. And that is because that person is different than you, and they are going to be thinking in terms of implementation instead of creation. So instead of making new things and trying to come up with new ideas and new systems and new procedures and new policies, they are thinking about, how do I implement these things? How do I make this one thing more efficient? And then they're great at plotting. They're great at, going year after year and generating a solid profit margin, managing a business, making it more efficient, and staying within the constraints of the quote-unquote entrepreneur that's running the business and has founded the organization. They're the manager of the company. And so there's going to be that friction between the two. And so if you listen to this podcast for a long time, you've heard my operational manager for Augusta Lawn Care Services be on here. And she had talked about, being a number two to someone like me, and the different issues that come up with that and all of that. Well, this is again, she is incredible at implementation, getting things done, whereas I am always much more not head in the clouds, but like always thinking ahead and trying to change things. I'm always trying to change stuff. And that's great. And that's usually what is heralded and thought of as really cool in the business world. But at the end of the day, the implementer will actually make more money for the business because they get stuff done. They actually do the things that the business will make money instead of strategizing, pontificating, guessing, strategy. Like, that is not going to make a company money. It'll put you on the right course, maybe get you ahead of the game, put you correct an system or procedure that will get you on the right track. But an implementer, an operational manager, they are the one that makes the business run on a day-to-day basis. They are the ones that are going to consistently produce a profit and constantly looking for new efficiencies, looking for new team members, and wanting to take what they have and make it better, instead of constantly looking for something else that they can pull in and add to the business. So I said all of that to say, yesterday, my operational manager, she pulls me aside and says, "Look, we have to talk." And we have a very special relationship in that when we are mad or we are in disagreement, that we do a good job of making it very safe to say whatever we're thinking. And just talk and hash it out, whether that be anger or whatever we have to work our way through. We're pretty good at letting that happen. Whether or not, I'm not saying that we're perfect and that we figure it all out, but that's one thing we're pretty good at. It's just, if we have a disagreement, let's talk about it. Let's just address it. Let's not hold it inside. Let's not think about it when we're at home. Let's just talk about it together and get it over with and done with and figure it out together. And so we're both very driven individuals and all of those things. And so because she runs a lot of day-to-day operations now, and I'm more involved with other things that I'm doing. This is the problem, though, is I can still run operations because I'm involved enough. However, now I'm becoming the bottleneck. Not the bottleneck. I'm becoming the tripping hazard for my operational manager and everyone else in my business that wants to continue to take things off my plate. So this is the problem. On one side, I am telling them, I got to take things off my plate as far as estimating or operationally, like project management and these things. I need those off my plate, and they know that, and they're supportive of that. But then on the other hand, I walk into my office and I will try to change things operationally as far as which crews are going where and who should be taking materials to one place and which shop, like where guys should be at, and like things that are much more hand-to-hand, day-to-day operational stuff that I really have to learn to be quiet on. And this is the problem, and this is what we were talking about yesterday, is it's not that I'm wrong all the time, which I am sometimes, like yesterday, but there are times when I might be right and I might have a better way of doing things, but I still need to take a back seat and then address it later with my operational manager and try to teach her how to do it better. Instead of jumping in and just taking the role over myself, I have to step back and say, look, operations is not my deal, but I'm going to use this as a way to train the person underneath me that I'm trying to groom to take the company. That is how I have to start thinking about it more. And so this is what I'd encourage you, your takeaway from my experience from this is like, ask yourself the question, are other people in your organization tripping over you in their best interest of trying to get their job done? Like, they're trying to get their job done. They're trying to do a great job, make the company better. And as long as you're aligned on that one thing, that's when you can have really, really honest, transparent discussions about things that are very close to you in the business, personal, business, whatever it is. As long as you're aligned on that one main thing, like we both have the same common goal. Now, how we're going to get there, we got to hash out right now and figure out. So she pulls me aside, is like, look, we have to talk about this, that she basically said, I'm not using exact wording, but like, she's basically saying, I'm tripping over you trying to do my job. And just let me do my job that you've empowered me to do. And so this is a crazy thing. And this is the blending, in my opinion, when a company goes from someone that is innovating and creating and building, and there's that transition to someone that is implementing and organizing and managing. That is the friction that is created on the handoff from you as the business owner to someone that you are having manage your business. And this is very many times the strongest business relationship that can be formed, the strongest business partnerships that are created, the one and twos of the world, the Paul Allen and Bill Gates, like that sort of kind of combination is created when one individual is very much innovation and the other one is very much implementation. Because without the implementer, the innovator becomes the person that's all talk, no game. They always get great startups, get great funding, but they never get traction. They never actually build a real business that makes money. They're the person who talks about all the different ideas they're going to create, the ways of changing the world, but they never actually get anything done. That's the innovator without the implementer. What is also bad is the implementer without the innovator. Because if the implementer does not have innovation, they will eventually fall behind in technology. They will not be able to create new and exciting ways of changing their industry. They will not think of ways to stay ahead of competition. They will not think of new ways to create marketing materials or ways to attract new talent. They will not be as inclined to solve the issues with new and exciting ways of challenging the previously held terminologies and ways of thinking in the industry, because they are going to be implementing the things that have been given to them and doing their job. And so there is no positive, there is no negative, there's no pro, con, higher, lower, as far as it comes to someone that starts a business and is more the creative side, and the innovator versus someone that is implementation. And I have to realize, and I do realize, that I am very, very fortunate to have someone in my first business, Augusta Lawn Care Services, that is an implementer. Someone that actually gets stuff done. Because if she was also an innovator, I'd have an issue right now. Because we'd be creating and hashing things out, but I would never be able to feel that I could hand it off to someone that was going to actually run the business, day-to-day operations, and do what I say, and run the business the way that I have kind of tried to impress into the brand and impress into the culture of the company. And so an implementer does that really well. So I am super blessed to have an implementer to balance out the innovator inside of me. Because what runs me nuts is trying to do the same thing every day, trying to, minutely fix little things to make small efficiencies. Like, that drives me nuts. Doing the same thing every day just drives me crazy. Whereas an implementer, that's what makes them so excited, is to see the incremental progress towards perfection and doing the same thing over and over and over again and getting better at it each time. And so I'm very privileged to have someone that's an implementer as my operational manager. Very privileged to have that individual. And I have to realize that as the business grows and I begin to step out of the business, that I cannot step into the wheelhouse that I'm creating for my employees, and I'm trying to empower them. I'm trying to give them more responsibility. I'm trying to teach them more things, give them more latitude within the organization to make decisions, whether it be hiring or firing or like making decisions, strategic things. I'm trying to do that, but then I can't step in and literally trip them up by changing little things within operations. And so I don't know exactly what this episode is all about, more than me just explaining what's happened the past couple days. But what I'm going to be trying to do is really, even if it means we lose a little bit of money because we're less efficient on one decision, or we do something a little bit off, or whatever it is, I have to stop myself from stepping back into operations and fixing little things within operations. And the reason this is so important is because if you don't do this, if you don't make the clear roles and responsibilities within your organization and clearly define what your operations manager is responsible for, what you as the founder, CEO, innovator is responsible for, if you don't make those things clear, you will constantly be tripping over each other. And you will constantly be at each other's throats because you're constantly thinking about what they should do. You're unclear as to what you should be doing and what is not your responsibility to be taken care of. And so this is something that we talked about yesterday. I was in the wrong. I have to get better at this. And this is something I'm still figuring out. And so if anything you get out of this talk is, if you have an operational manager, if you have someone underneath that you are trying to cultivate to take the business or to take more of a bigger role within the organization or the management, really make sure whatever you have to do to make sure you have a relationship with that person enough to when you come to these obstacles, which are inevitable, that you can take them aside, or they feel comfortable enough to take you aside and challenge you and ask you why you're getting into their business and why you are making, tripping them up. And so, yesterday I was wrong. I have to change, but I'm just super thankful that we have enough of a relationship that when we're mad at each other, we can just hash things out. And it's not bad to be mad at each other and disagree and debate about things. And I think so many times we hide behind the guise of like being nice that we don't actually address the issues at hand, and thereby the organization is hindered or doesn't grow as quickly. People within the organization are confused. People within the organization that have lower levels of morale. The culture begins to die, and that is all stemming from the fact that we don't have transparent enough relationships to talk about the things we disagree about. And so I'd really encourage you to facilitate that culture within your organization, definitely with your managers. That means getting to know them outside of work, getting to know their family, getting to know them on a personal level, whatever it is, to make them feel comfortable enough to challenge you, feel comfortable enough when you challenge them, and that when there is disagreement and people are tripping over other people's roles within the company, that you have the relationshipal latitude to go out and call them and pull them aside and say, look, we have to talk about this, and it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be pretty. It might get a little ugly. We might, get a little heated at times and debate certain things. Things might be said, but at the end of the day, we both have the same common goal of making the company better. And so I'd encourage you to try to get to that place, number one, with your operational manager, with your management team, where you get to know them so well that you can challenge each other, you can have heated debates, and you're not always trying to tiptoe around the different topics and different issues at hand, and you can just talk about it, deal with it, get angry about it, but then at the end of the day, come with a resolution, obviously. Like, don't just get mad, but at the end of that conversation, you have something like, what are we changing? What are we doing? I had to figure that out yesterday. I was halfway through the conversation not knowing where we were going. I knew I was in the wrong. I knew she wasn't happy with me. I had to figure out, okay, what's the action items we're going forward? What's going to happen? And so we changed things. We said, look, when there is a crew member walk into the office and I'm here and they ask me a question that's operationally driven, I'm going to hand that off to you. And if you make the wrong decision, I'm going to let it happen. And then when that crew member leaves and you've told them something that I feel is incorrect or that there's a better way of doing things, I am then going to tell you as the operational manager, and then that you deal with it. So either A, we're going to be little bit less efficient in that case, or B, you are then going to contact the operational manager is going to contact that employee and make that wrong right and figure out what was the best operational thing to do. But what is not going to happen from now on is I, the owner, am not going to jump into operations simply because I'm there at that moment in time and tell that employee what they should or should not do. I am going to basically rebound their question and say, hey, look, that's not department. It's not like that's not what I'm responsible for, because I'm responsible for everything at the end of the day. However, because I have entrusted and because I've empowered someone else to take those roles and responsibilities, it is wrong for me to give someone the responsibility, give them the power, give them the task at hand, and then try to take it back away from them whenever I want. Whenever I walk into the office, I can't take back operations just because I'm there. I can't walk in and all of a sudden be trying to take over scheduling just because I'm there. I can't just walk in and take invoicing when I've delegated that to some other individual, empowered them to make decisions in that department. I cannot walk in and trip them up in their job. And I'd ask yourself the question, for your management team, for the people underneath you, for your project managers, for your operational managers, the people answering the phone, are you becoming the thing they're tripping over as they try to get better at their job? You've been listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. I'm Mike Andes. Until next time, be great, because nothing else pays.